Welcome into Seahawks Today. Your Seattle Seahawks got some great injury news, and that is going to be the main focus of today's show. We don't want you to miss out on any of the late-breaking news coming from Seattle and your head coach, Mike Macdonald. Now, there's going to be some other stories that we get into as well today. You had a practice squad wide receiver signing that, frankly, I think is a sneakier move than people realize. And then you also had a key loss. A roster move had to be made to bring in Rashid Shaheed, and that ended up in you losing a player. But before we get into those two stories, I do want to make sure we dive into the most important injury news of the day, and that, of course, is Ernest Jones was listed as a limited participant in practice on Wednesday. Now, Jones, obviously, there was some worry, some fear about will he end up having to miss a lot of time for your Seattle Seahawks after he got his knee rolled up on against the Washington Commanders? He left that game. He was on the sidelines in street clothes. He was jumping around, moving around. So I'd let you know that I felt like there was a pretty decent chance that he would be returning soon. As soon as I saw the news, I went in. That is my real Twitter account. That is my real Twitter profile. And I tweeted out huge news. Whenever there is breaking news, I am going to break it first on Twitter about your Seattle Seahawks. So make sure that you head on over there and follow me on X so you don't miss out on any of the breaking news from your Seahawks. Mike Macdonald had this to say on Ernest Jones and how quickly he could return and what his practice looked like. I'm not going to measure how good the news is. He's working through it. He's going to be a part of our walkthrough. We'll see how much he does in actual ACT. That means practice. I'm sure he'll be listed as limited in some capacity. This is a gigantic gift for your Seattle Seahawks. The fact that Ernest Jones is already participating in practice in a Wednesday practice this early in the week after having his knee get rolled up on, that's gigantic. That means it really isn't going to be a long-term injury. Because I think even myself and a lot of the other Seahawk fans were worried once they heard about what the injury was. Anytime you hear knee injury, you instantly assume, well, I'll be happy if I get that player back in like a month, maybe 6 weeks. The fact that Seattle's going to get their signal caller, their green dot, back sooner than I think you thought you were going to get him back is gigantic. But wait. There's even more great injury news for your Seattle Seahawks. And I think the most important part about this injury news is it comes from a veteran leader on this team. Bob Condata had this. Mike Macdonald said that Cooper Kupp should also be limited today. Now, Seattle is not holding an actual practice, but it's a ACT walkthrough type of workout. So in the NFL, you'll have these practices where guys are running through plays, maybe jogging through, or just like going through things without having their pads on. The NFL limits how many padded practices you can have. And so even though it is good news, it doesn't necessarily mean that Cooper Kupp was out there banging around with anybody. It also talks about Bobo and Jerrick Young and whether they will return soon or not. And we'll get into more information on that here in just a little bit. Great news that you're going to get Cooper Kupp back. Obviously, he started out last week, pretty strong. Hey, it's a hamstring heel. By the end of the week, he wasn't even participating in practice. Now, I know that everyone's excited about the addition of Rashid Shaheed and what he can do in taking the top off the defense. There is still a place for Cooper Kupp in this offense. He's still going to be your wide receiver too. He's still going to be Sam Darnold's favorite target to get the ball to in key third down situations, especially in the middle of the field. Cooper Kupp still has a lot of knowledge when it comes to going up against opposing defenses, and he knows how to find a way to get open that other rookies might not necessarily find or might not necessarily be able to see. I still want Cooper Kupp to be smart, though. I want Ernest Jones IV to be smart. Frankly, at this point, you know who else I want to be smart? The freaking training staff in Seattle. I'm tired of players like Julian Love thinking, hey, we're going to come back, we're going to be healthy, and then they miss another week, and then another week, and then another week, and now all of a sudden they're on IR. I don't need another Devin Witherspoon situation where we get to see him in action. We get to see him out on the field against the Arizona Cardinals. And then he ends up missing multiple weeks again after that. At this point, I think I've lost a little bit of the trust in that training staff, not because I don't think that they do a good job, but because I think they listen to the players too much. I think they listen to Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love too quickly. I think that they trust the players. And the good thing about players is that they always want to be back on the field. The bad thing about players is that means they will lie to get back out on the field. So don't rush. Don't force your Seahawks to play too early, or more importantly, don't allow them to force themselves to play too early. You need the full complement of your team against the LA Rams in 2 weeks. You don't necessarily need the full complement against the Arizona Cardinals because, frankly, I think that you're going to win that game pretty easy. It's great injury news that both those guys are going to come back or at least are participating in practice, but there's still a long way to go. Look, I've been pretty clear on this channel that I think you're going to absolutely crush the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe I'm jinxing it. The best way for you not to jinx it is go in and smash that thumbs up button. Like the video if you want the Seahawks to beat the Cardinals. Do not jinx it. I'm going to dive into our other 2 key stories in today's video. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my good friends over at PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections. If your picks are right, you could cash in. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. PrizePicks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. I have a 3-pick power play for the action this weekend. Tua, less on his passing yards. JSN, more on his receiving yards. Sam Darnold, more on his pass TDs. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. The newest Seahawk joining the team, or at least joining the practice squad, is Macdonald. He is a wide receiver out of Fresno State, and what he can add to this team is an extra depth piece in that wide receiver room. Obviously, you have some injuries in that room on a multitude of different fronts for a multitude of different players. Delina is a type of player that can come in and instantly add to your special teams unit. I don't think that he's the type of player that you would call up because, hey, we need to use him in a certain package, or he's the type of player that you call up and you instantly get him out on the field for yourself. He's obviously a rookie. He's a young guy, hasn't had a lot of stats so far, spent some time out in Kansas City. But he is a key depth piece in case you get into a doomsday scenario where, hey, we need a special teams guy to come out. I also think that this signing tells you that you're not going to get Jerrick Young or Jake Bobo back anytime soon. When I say soon, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go on IR. I mean, head coach Mike Macdonald has made it clear that he doesn't expect them to go on IR necessarily. He says it's frankly not on the table. At least that's according to this tweet from Bob Condata. But what it does tell me is that you're going to see a little bit more of Cody White. It tells me that this offense is still trying to work through the injuries that accompany this wide receiver room. I mean, shoot, think about it right now. You have 3 guys that are out on this list. Cooper Kupp is out, although fingers crossed, we hope he'll be back soon. Jake Bobo is out, the backup to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Jerrick Young is out right now. So you're looking at a crew that, frankly, is a little bit decimated, even with Rashid Shaheed coming in. So don't be shocked if you see more practice squad signings for the wide receiver room over the next week or so. Remember, I already told you to follow me on Twitter. I'm also telling you to follow me on Instagram because the minute that news breaks, I will be out tweeting a video, tweeting my take on it, or posting a video on Instagram. The minute the Ernest Jones rumor that he would be back and was officially back as a limited participant in practice, I released a video on my Instagram, and I tweeted out my take on Twitter. So you don't want to miss it. Make sure that you follow me on both of those sites at Will Ortner. The bad news for Seattle, again, I keep going to my good friend Bob Condata, great beat reporter for the Seattle Seahawks. When the Seahawks traded for Rashid Shaheed, they did have to release a player from the 53-man roster, and that, of course, was safety Jerrick Reed II. Now, I think there was a lot of hope in Seattle that you'd be able to bring him back to the practice squad and continue to use Reed as a potential call-up type of player. Unfortunately, it was pretty quickly after, within 2 hours, that ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that the Titans have signed safety Jerrick Reed II off of waivers from the Seahawks. I think this is a bigger loss than most fans might realize in Seattle. And no, Jerrick Reed wasn't going to be a starter for you. He wasn't going to be a guy that necessarily got a lot of time quickly for your Seattle Seahawks. But he was a player that was a key special teams performer when he did get called up. He played in 5 games this year. Now, he only ended up having around 4 to 5 tackles on the season, but he was a key call-up with all the different injury issues that you've had in that secondary. When you have a player like Jerrick Reed II that has been with the team throughout all of training camp, he's been with the team through the entire season, bouncing back and forth between the practice squad and the active 53-man roster or getting called up to the game day roster, that is a player that you can use fairly instantly as a plug-and-play type of guy. That is a guy where if you had another injury into the secondary, I mean, fingers crossed, heaven forbid, but if it were to happen, you could continue to use him without having to blink too much, right? He's the type of player that you would just trust in yourself that you would be able to plug him in and let him play instantly. These are the things that are going to hurt the Seattle Seahawks, fortunately or unfortunately. And while I do wish the best for Jerrick Reed, I am going to miss seeing him in a Seahawks uniform. This is the complete Seattle Seahawks injury report from Wednesday's practice. Obviously, right now, when you look at Elijah Arroyo and A.J. Barner, I don't expect them to miss too much time. The key ones there are going to be for you, Jerrick Young, not participating in practice. Jake Bobo not participating in practice. And unfortunately, we were told that Cooper Kupp was going to participate in practice. This is why you subscribe to the channel. We learned in the middle of filming this video, thank you to producer Colin for pulling up the injury report, that Cooper Kupp unfortunately did not participate in practice, despite reports saying that he would. I told you earlier on in the week that I did not expect Cooper Kupp to play in this game. I'm telling you right now, Thursday morning, don't want him. Don't want him to play in this game. I want him ready for your game against the Rams. I do not want him to participate in practice. Torrey Horton, I'm not worried about. I think he's going to be good to go. Here's your full and entire Seattle Seahawks injury report. It's a bigger injury report, but I do think it's important to notice that your green dot, your middle linebacker, was a limited participant in that practice, and that's Ernest Jones. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We've got daily free Seahawks content coming out that you do not want to miss. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.